Welcome back, Kernels, to another video. Let's rank my top 10 movies of 2024. Hey, Kernels, so I know I'm a little bit late on this one, but it's almost the end of January, and I still haven't made my top 10 ranked of 2024 yet, so I kind of figured that we could do this. Also, I'm in need of a new video for my homepage, so I had my 2023 ranked. This is going to be my 2024 top 10. So real quick before we kind of dive into this, just know that this is my list. So I know, people might not all agree with it. That's okay. It is my list. Let me know down below what your top 10 favorite movies of 2024 were. And let's prepare as we get ready for 2025. Here we go. Coming in at number 10, I have Smile 2, a movie that honestly, I was kind of going into hoping that I would like it. I was a really big fan of the original, especially the way that it ended. This movie is a little bit less grounded than that movie and really takes those big leaps in terms of like scale and just like the big broadness of everything. The movie does have a little bit of a slow beginning. It takes a little bit to kind of get going. But one of the things that I really love about this movie is that it's not just like the creature is like the center of attention the whole time. It's really Sky Riley is the center of attention in this movie. And like you have like full-on songs that like people are obsessing over, including myself. Like a lot of the musical numbers in this movie were really good. And I just think that it's kind of incredible that you have a movie that's not even trying to focus on that, and you still manage to make some pretty good music for a movie that its center of attention is about a pop star who gets the smile curse. And not to mention, the movie itself is really good, has a lot of cool twists and turns, just like deception of, not knowing what reality is, and it makes you kind of question everything. But that is why it comes in at my number 10 spot. Coming in at number 9, I have Wicked. Now, I know this is probably a little bit higher on everybody's list. I've never personally seen the Broadway play. I've, of course, seen, like, The Wizard of Oz. I think I've even seen Oz the Great and Powerful, the one with James Franco. And I like this universe. It's very cool. This is probably one of my favorite projects, if not my favorite project from this universe. And I know we're getting a sequel this year, so maybe I'll learn to like this movie a little bit more. But I think that the fact that it's in my top 10 should just show you how much I enjoyed it. Definitely my favorite part of this movie. While the big part is like when she finally is on her broomstick and she's singing in front of the guards and flying in the air. My favorite moment is actually at the dance thing when her and Glenda like become friends. That was my favorite moment of the whole movie because I thought it was really like well acted. I thought it was very well thought out and just played really well on screen. Because typically those things kind of feel a little cliche with the way that they've been done normally in Hollywood, but this didn't, and I really appreciated that. Coming in at number 8, I have Inside Out 2. If you guys know anything about me, I'm a massive fan of the original Inside Out, and while this didn't quite hit that level for me, it definitely is like right there. I know I actually went with my one buddy, and right after the movie we had talked about how like this movie was a little bit better for him than the first one, and it's just because of how he deals with anxiety. And while this is a kid's movie and obviously it's a Pixar movie, I feel like Pixar is for everyone, and animation isn't just for kids, especially this movie because it deals a lot with anxiety and just like how to deal with it and what we as humans kind of do with that. And I think that's the reason. I think this movie did hit $1 billion in the box office, if I'm not mistaken. It did really well in the box office, and for that reason, that's why it probably did, because it just resonated not with just kids, with the animation and it's Pixar, but because so many adults could relate to it, and it really hit a nerve in a lot of people. And I really enjoyed what story they were trying to tell here. Coming in at number 7, I have Carry On, my only home release or Netflix streaming release. I actually wasn't planning on watching this movie, and then it was close to Christmas, and I remember like one night I was like, oh, what's this movie? And I was like some kind of like terrorist like airport movie. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool, like I'll watch that. And I was expecting, the typical kind of format. I really got into this. And I'm a very big fan of the actors. I'm trying to think of his name. I know he plays Exy in Kingsman. I'm kind of blank on the name right now, but really great acting in this movie. Just also really good stakes. I mean, I've seen a lot of people on like other social media platforms where they'll be like, oh, like he could have done this. Really, he couldn't have. If you really watch the movie, there were a lot of different ways that they kind of like made sure that this is what he had to do. And I don't know, I just had a really good time with the high stakes of this movie, the way it kind of ended, and just the acting in all between and everything. I really had a good time with this one. Coming in at number 6, I have Gladiator 2. As someone who was a massive fan of the original Gladiator, I thought this one just kind of ticked a lot of those boxes. I'm still even not sure if I prefer the original or this one. They're both different movies. The way I think I described it to someone I was talking to was Gladiator 1 feels like a very more like personal story, where like you still get that high action, but it definitely feels more like a personal story. Whereas Gladiator 2 is still a personal story, but you get those big, broad, big ideas with like the Roman Empire falling and just all of these big things are happening. That's what this movie felt more. It felt like a continuation where it's like, okay, first you have the personal stuff, now this is what happens. And I really enjoyed like kind of the next step in telling the original Gladiator story, and they did a phenomenal job with the score especially, but just so many cool cinematic shots, and Pedro Pascal obviously works a lot of his magic here, as well as the rest of the cast and crew. And I also loved watching Denzel Washington be a really good villain, because he wasn't just like a bad person, he was just kind of a trickster. And I really like that about him in this movie. And making its way into my top 5, I have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I kind of already went into this knowing that I was going to love it. I remember when the trailer first came out, I was like, yeah, that just looks so badass. And I was right. It very badass movie. But also just like eye candy. Like the whole time I'm watching this, I'm just like, yeah, this is what I came here for. And sometimes when you watch a trailer and then you see the actual movie, it doesn't quite deliver. This is a movie that I felt like 100% delivered on what I saw in the trailer, and it's exactly what I was hoping to get. We also got a lot of cool backstory. I love Chris Hemsworth's villain in this movie. He's just like kind of weird, wacky, and it's kind of a role that Chris Hemsworth hasn't quite played too much yet. And I just really appreciated kind of what this movie had promised in the trailer, and then what it delivered. Coming in at number 4, I have Deadpool and Wolverine, our only MCU movie release of last year, and it was quite a banger. I am most notably known for not loving Deadpool as much as most people. I still enjoy the character, but my one best friend, he loves Deadpool, and he probably would have this at the top of his list, and that's totally fine. And I really enjoyed this movie, but I do think there are a couple things that they could have, worked on, or maybe not so much worked on, but it's just like, I don't think that I could like as much, just because like I'm not into as much to the character of Deadpool as I am like Wolverine, like the new Wolverine, and seeing some of the X-Men characters return was more of like what I enjoyed from this movie. I did enjoy Deadpool and his story. Like I still enjoy him very much. I think he's a really good character. But just in terms of what I am really into, I like the more classic hero vibe, like Shang-Chi or like Captain America, or even like just assassin-like characters. And I basically what I'm trying to say is Deadpool isn't my favorite MCU character or my favorite Marvel character. While I still enjoy him, not quite my favorite. But regardless, the movie's really good. It does a really good job of just kind of getting away from the MCU for a little bit and just telling its own story. It also has some pretty cool cameos if you're, looking for that. And it easily makes its way into my top 4. At number 3, I have Alien Romulus. This is the start of the only movies that I gave in 2024 5 stars. Was this, and the next one, and number 1 spot. I loved this movie, and I went into it expecting, I'm probably going to have a really good time with this, because I love the Alien series. Well, I didn't know that I was going to love it that much. I mean, I truly loved what they did here. It's, you're always nervous when they kind of do these continuations of old movies where, like, oh, are they gonna get the tone right? Because that's really the thing. Like, are they gonna be able to match that alien tone? And I believe not only did they match it, but they made it a little bit better. And honestly, this is probably one of my favorite alien movies of all time. I think it really captures the essence of what the original Alien was about. I love the little face-sucky creatures that, like, do that to you. I just love the tenseness of this movie. I mean, the cast is great. It's a great time in theaters. I remember seeing this with my dad, and we had a great time watching this. It was very high stakes. My muscles were tense the whole time, and I was like, what's gonna happen? And then especially that, like, weird alien thing at the end that was, like, half human. I don't even know what that thing was, but I know I didn't like it, and that's why this movie comes in at number 3. As my runner-up for 2024, I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and for a while I had this and the first movie on this list kind of interchangeable, but I did rewatch them, so that's kind of why I have made this list now. This movie was phenomenal, and probably one of my favorite Planet of the Apes movies, although the Planet of the Apes movies are known for being very good. I mean, they're all fantastic. And I felt like this one was no different. I really enjoyed the story they were telling, the history of the old stuff, and, like, getting the vault open, seeing, you know, just... I love these movies for, like, kind of how poetic they are in a sense, because, like, they really kind of follow this traditional style of storytelling, but it's also like a future movie. Like, it takes place way in the future where, you know, monkeys rule everything. I really enjoy just seeing Noah, like, kind of like our new Caesar type character, explore this and see the differences that he has from Caesar, but also that, like, I want another movie from like Noah and his kind of series. I love, like, when they finally get into the vault and they're exploring all of these different things, and I think it's just a really well-made movie. But at number 1, I have Dune Part 2. I don't think that anyone is surprised that this is up here. I think this is, like, a pretty non-negotiable best movie of last year. It's really good. It's phenomenal. And I remember seeing this, like, 3 times in theaters, and every time it's like, I didn't get bored. The cinematics is what really makes this movie. I mean, I saw this in IMAX as well. It is beautiful. Like, gorgeous to look at. And, you know, this was the first Dune, and this movie is what sold me that Timothée Chalamet is really a solid actor. I wasn't quite sold on Wonka. I did enjoy the movie, but I wasn't quite sold on Wonka. This movie just is what I do this job for. I love talking about movies like this. I love talking about the way that they make me feel, which, again, like, you can't even imagine, like, you know those kinds of movies where you go in and you forget that you just watched a movie? Like, you felt like you were in the movie the whole time. You don't feel like you're watching something. Like, someone taps you and you're like, oh, that's right, like, I'm actually, like, a living human person in real life right now. That's what this movie felt like to me. Like, I kind of forgot that I was even a real person, that I was supposed to, you know, drive home after seeing that. And just the sandworms, and one of my favorite things that I still do now is I go up and I look at that third trailer for this movie, and the score. I could just listen to the score and enjoy that movie. But between all the visuals, the story it's telling, I hope we do get a finale to this series. I don't know if that'll happen, but I would love to see a finale to this series, and that's why it comes in at my number 1 spot. So yeah, Kernels, that is my top 10 movies of 2024. Again, this is just my list. I want to know your list down below. Please comment down below what your list is. Is it good? Do you agree with what's on my list? Well, you know, what movies do you have on your list that maybe kind of coincide with mine, and where did you kind of rank them? I'd love to know all of that down below. And I will be making these at the end of 2025, which I think 2025's list will be a little bit more detailed, because there's a lot more coming out this year, a lot more. So definitely stay tuned for that, and I will see you all in the next video, Kernels. Peace.